Hello, this is Steve Nelson with the National Weather Service with the briefing for the week starting August 21st. Before I begin with the forecast for the week, I wanted to recap what happened yesterday. We had pretty severe storms, issued about 35 severe thunderstorm warnings and one flash flood warning yesterday. A lot of damage, if you can kind of see in the map at the bottom of the screen here. All those blue squares are wind reports of at least wind damage of at least one or two trees down, indicative of winds probably 50 to 60 miles per hour. Some stronger damage was recorded, and we may be investigating some of those storms tomorrow here or the next few days. We had damage in Hall County and Gainesville and Gilmer County in the west and middle parts of the county as well, and other locations, Bartow, many to mention. So we had a busy day yesterday. That was really due to strong instability. I don't have it on the screen here, but if you're familiar with CAPE, which is a measure of instability, CAPE values were between 3,000 and 5,000 across the region, particularly in North and West Georgia yesterday. So very unusually extreme instability. We are not seeing conditions like that in the next few days, thankfully, so we're not expecting another repeat of what we saw yesterday. One of our meteorologists put a slide on social media this morning about a Gustnato. Some of you may have heard of this, some not. Basically, a Gustnato is a surface-based rotation that comes from thunderstorm winds. We had a lot of strong winds with the thunderstorms that come out of them, and some may refer to the clouds as shelf clouds there. So Gustnatos usually occur along these boundaries where outflow from thunderstorms can produce rotation in certain circumstances and make a tornado-like feature. It can do some damage. Fortunately, these are weak, so they're short-lived, they're weak. They're usually thin and wispy. They don't affect a lot of people. There are a photograph or two, especially that one photo that I had on the previous screen, in Gilmer County that may have been a possible Gustnato near Ellijay on the leading edge of thunderstorms. So Gustnato is technically not a tornado by Weather Service and atmospheric science definitions. It is associated with a surface rotation, not from rotation aloft. We see clouds such as wall clouds and strong inflow going into storms, especially supercell thunderstorms. That is not what we saw yesterday. There may be some damage we'll be investigating, but most of the damage we saw was due to straight line winds. All right, moving on to the forecast. I did mention we're not expecting any rain for the next few days, so I'm going to jump right to the main story. The next 3 days is going to be heat. Heat advisory has already been issued. Well, that's in effect today, and it is for areas kind of south and east of Columbus to Warrenton. It does include Macon, Dublin, Americus, and other cities, Vidalia, Cordele. We're expecting heat indices to reach between 100 and 105 easily this afternoon. It could go a little higher in spots. So if you're outdoors, please take it easy. I've got some hourly readings at Columbus and Macon here on the screen. You can look at that if you'd like, but notice how it cranks up pretty quickly in the afternoon to over heat index values over 100. But even with sunset, it cools down, but notice how they stay pretty warm even 10 p.m. So if you're out and about, it will be kind of warm. If you have family or friends or relatives without air conditioning, or you know people who will be affected by extreme heat, you might want to see if you can provide them shelter or places with air conditioning. All right, as I mentioned, the heat is going to continue Friday and Saturday. On the left is Friday and the right is Saturday. Notice that if anything, temperatures are going up. We actually tried to adjust the forecast a little bit with the latest information for Saturday because that looked like the real impact day for heat. And we still got values well over 105 there, 105 at Macon, Americus, 107 at Dublin, maybe a little warmer than that at spots on Saturday. So we're going to be definitely extending the heat advisories. They'll be coming out this afternoon for Friday for sure, and it may continue into Saturday. And it also be prepared in case these advisories are lifted northward. It may include the Atlanta metro area, a lot of northwest Georgia, maybe as far as up until you get into the mountains, pretty much the whole area, north of central Georgia except the mountains, should see heat indices over 100 on Saturday. All right, some people may be a little caught off guard by the heat. This has kind of come on quickly with not a lot of advance notice. We've been very cool this summer. Very wet, and a lot of people maybe aren't prepared for some very warm temperatures that we're seeing. So here's some quick safety rules. Slow down, definitely reduce strenuous activity if you're outdoors. Take breaks, drink lots of fluids, especially water. Lightweight, light-colored clothing is best. Dark clothing will absorb sunlight and heat. You're going to get a lot warmer, a lot quicker with dark-colored clothing. If you have elderly neighbors, friends, or relatives, those folks are definitely more at risk for heat-related illness. And leaving children or pets or elderly in vehicles is not a good idea. We've already talked about that before. Definitely want to check your back seat before you get out of the vehicle if you have young ones, and don't leave them even for just a few minutes. It can get very hot inside vehicles very quickly. The signs of heat-related illness, maybe a lot of people aren't aware of this. I've listed them there on the screen. I don't have to go through them all, but there is some differences as we go from heat cramps to heat exhaustion to heat stroke, which is really a medical emergency when you're to that level. So if you see or yourself or someone you know near you having any of these symptoms, try to seek treatment as quickly as possible. Okay, we're also looking at the Atlantic for tropical activity. And remember that we've been kind of advertising a below normal season, and in fact that's what has occurred so far. We're already towards the end of August, and we've only had 2 named storms in the Atlantic. Unfortunately, there's an area of disturbed weather, tropical low, in the approaching the Windward Islands. The Hurricane Center is forecasting this area to likely develop into a named storm. And you can see the area they're projecting over the next 5 days. It's possible it could move into the islands of the Caribbean and Cuba and southern Florida. But let me add that the computer models have been on a slight northward trend. So we're going to watch that closely and just give you a heads up that it's possible. But if the trend of the track of this storm continues on a northward trend, that would be very favorable for the U.S. coasts and U.S. properties in these areas, and much less impact as in compared to as if it had gone into the Gulf. So we'll keep watching it for you. All right, I mentioned that it looks like it's going to be dry through Saturday night. There you can kind of see in the graphic on the left, really not much rain is forecast at all. It's pretty much going to be warm and dry. Could be quite warm in the Mid-South, not just here. There's going to be quite a bit of heat advisories and even some heat warnings in the Mid-South and the central U.S. along the Mississippi Valley all the way up to St. Louis. That whole area of no rain, unfortunately, is going to see some pretty high values of heat and moisture. Sunday, Monday, there's going to be some cooling, especially in our area. We may have some high pressure building in from the north and give us a little bit cooler weather, a wedge type situation if you're familiar with what that means. A front coming on down from the east side of the Appalachians. We could see scattered showers and thunderstorms, though, Sunday, Monday. Not anything big like we had yesterday, but probably scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms firing back up Sunday afternoon, Monday, and for much of next week. You can always get your specific 7-day forecast from our website at weather.gov/Atlanta and just click the map that it's on the middle of the page for your custom forecast and then bookmark that. You can also type a zip code there in the box in the upper left. But just a quick forecast for 2 stations here, one in Atlanta at Hartsfield, showing the warm temperatures Friday 97, Saturday 95, very low chance of rain. Very isolated if we're going to get anything. We're probably not going to see much in the way of widespread precip the next few days. Dublin towards the southeast, very warm, almost 100 degrees for the next 3 days in that whole region. So be prepared for the heat. And then a little bit cooler weather that I mentioned starting on Monday. So we'll look forward to that after our heat spell of heat the next few days. All right, in summary, very hot and dry conditions are expected through Saturday night. There may be a few isolated showers, but probably won't amount to much. The big story is going to be the heat. Heat advisories will be extended. They're already in effect for south and east parts of our area, south of Columbus to Warrenton, and includes Macon and Dublin and Vidalia, and those areas are already under a heat advisory. Those advisories are going to continue Friday and Saturday with pretty high confidence in that, and they may be expanded north. Certainly looks that way for Saturday at this time. Isolated thunderstorms will return on Sunday and Monday as a backdoor front kind of comes from the east side of the Appalachians. Will give us a little bit cooler weather. So hopefully this heat spell won't last, but just a few days we can get through. We'll be fine. That's all I've got, guys. I'll see you guys next week.